And I think we are live. Bethesda is very quickly losing whatever good graces they have with the community. In fact, all the years and decades of hard work is disappearing as quickly as my hairline is. And whereas my head used to be full of long brown locks that went down to the middle of my hair, Bethesda's goodwill is now a barren wasteland. What do I mean by this, especially as somebody who does Starfield mod videos? Well, I mean that, Starfield is a game that Bethesda honestly could have come back from. How they're handling the backlash about their game is honestly, I think, going to kill not only Starfield, but I think it's going to kill, I think it's going to end up killing Elder Scrolls 6. I feel like I'm having deja vu, but I think that might just because, one, I've seen this picture in the background before several times, and two, because Bethesda really is just sticking their foot in their mouth. Now let me start all here. So first off, again, I did say I wanted to start streaming more. I'm gonna stream some news too. I'm gonna try and keep it light, but I am gonna get back to doing my playthrough of Elden Ring next week. Let me adjust my camera here. But I got to get used to doing this again. So not just editing videos, actually streaming things and getting it ready. Oddly enough, editing videos takes a lot more time than setting up a stream does. But for some reason, I hate setting up a stream more than I do editing videos. I don't know how my brain works, but I don't necessarily like it all the time. Anywho, so as we all know, Starfield was Bethesda's newest IP, their newest game they released that we were counting. I think they had a vampire game that came out recently, but we don't count it because it's dog shit. I can't say personally, that's just what every review and every person who's ever played it has said. But Starfield's come out. It got good reviews the first few weeks of the game. Of course, any Bethesda game typically does. Even Fallout 76 did. And even right now, I think Fallout 76 is sitting at mixed reviews. Right now, Starfield, I think, is negative. In fact, I'm kind of curious. I'll check that out in a minute. But yeah, I kind of want to see him now. Let's take a look at my Steam here. Let's see what Starfield's looking at. Store page right now. Starfield, as of right now, view page. Starfield is looking at mixed reviews. That is pretty damn bad. So what's going on with Starfield? Well, Starfield is basically an incomplete game. And I think it is painfully obvious that Starfield was built with the idea that modders were going to do most of the work later on. What do I mean by that? I mean that Starfield was built with like 1,000 planets. Most of them were empty. Yes, there was randomly generated stuff in them that would pop up that you could do. So technically there is endless content. Now, again, it was randomly generated content in the style of No Man's Sky. And Bethesda apparently did not pay attention to how No Man's Sky started off because it was very, very rocky. Now, again, of course, we have... let me turn my... get in here. We've seen what No Man's Sky has done since they released. They have put out many, many, many free updates. For like I think it's been out for like a decade now. And let me check that out, actually. Let me see. How long has No Man's Sky been out? I got this one on my... who's it here? No Man's Sky, 30th, store page. When did this game come out? This game came out 2016. Damn. So yeah, 8 years ago, damn near, or 7 years ago. So, and it's had major updates since then. They have done so much to improve the game. No Man's Sky looks like a completely new game. It seemed like Bethesda wanted to capitalize on that style of gaming. However, again, when it first came out, it was critically panned. There was nothing to do in the game. Well, imagine No Man's Sky, but with 4 major storylines, or 4 side storylines and 1 major storyline. And that's basically what you have with Bethesda, with their new game, Starfield. Now, that's not saying that Starfield has been bad or anything, but I should say it's not up to snuff for a Bethesda game. Now, before I continue on, there have been some backlashes from the developers, and one I want to go over particularly, and that is... I got an article here from The Gamer, and it says, Starfield dev complains of disconnect between industry and gamers. Now, I've never been one to remember, like, people who write articles, a lot of game developers, I forget their names. I've never been a very good name person. Even stuff like favorite bands and whatnot, I don't remember most of their names. It's just my thing. I don't remember names very well. Even screen names takes me a lot of time. When I was playing with Mitsukai, I kept calling him Mitsuki for a long time. Terra, I keep calling Tara. It's just part of it's just how I pronounce things. I've always had a bit of a speech issue, and part of it is again I'm just not good with names. So forgive me that I don't know exactly who actually sent this quote here, but I'm going to go into it. A lead Starfield developer, and again this is an article from the Gamer. A lead Bethesda dev comments on Starfield. Funny how disconnected some players are from the realities of game development. That sentence right there, I want to highlight because of two things. One, I think that just because somebody is criticizing your game does not mean, or I said it wrong. First off, a lot of people who are criticizing the game are other game developers. So let's not forget that. And second off, just because I don't know how to develop a game does not mean I cannot criticize the product that I've purchased. I don't know how to build a fucking car, but if my car comes to me missing 3 wheels, only has an airbag and no steering wheel, it's got 2 tape players in it but no radio, and there's no seats, I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to criticize that since it's something I purchased and was advertised as being something else. Now, I'm not saying this is a bait and switch, but I am saying that if I'm used to getting a certain level of product for a certain amount of years, i.e. the previous Elder Scrolls and Fallout games, and suddenly I'm having something that is very obviously not up to the standard I'm used to, but it's charged the same amount, I'm going to have a problem with that. Again, if I'm buying a car, it works, or I'm expected to get, 200,000 miles out of it, and then I buy a new car and I only get 10,000 miles, that's a bit of an issue. We're not even going to get into the, we'll get on that one later. The jackasses said they wanted to charge games by the hour. It's called an arcade, and those are dying out, so good luck with that. But we're going to go into more of this article, and I'm going to give you some more of my thoughts on this. But just the take this guy had was so bad, I don't know how else. Well, let's continue. A lead Starfield dev complains that gamers are disconnected from the realities of game development. In a lengthy thread, Bethesda's design editor Paul Pagliarulli, forgive me, I'm sure I said that wrong. Pagliarula. Again, I'm not doing it on purpose, I'm just really bad with a name. But argues that many critics don't understand how games are made, saying, "Don't fool yourself into thinking you know why it is the way it is." This comes after Starfield has faced a lot of backlash from general audiences, particularly on Reddit. Bethesda was hit with further criticism when it was found to be arguing back with negative Steam reviews, infamously stating some of Starfield's planets are empty by design, but that's not boring. So we went over some of those reviews in the last video I believe I did, going over some of the Bethesda news that was happening, and this is such a bad take, and this is after all that happened, I believe. You don't have to know how to make a game just to criticize it. You don't have to know how to do anything to criticize anything. Now, that may obviously affect your criticism and how much it's weighed, but it's such a slippery slope here because we're going to get into game developers, we're going to get into people that buy your product. It's such a bad take that it's not even funny. I mean, yes, I don't know how to make the game. That doesn't mean I can't point out an obvious fact, and that is that if something is empty, then yes, it is boring. Just because you give me a big empty sandbox doesn't mean I have anything to do. Now, maybe when I was younger, if you put me in there when I was 2 years old and I just have a big empty box of sand, hey, I can do whatever with it. But as an adult, I'm going to get bored pretty quickly. Or better yet, again, I'll kind of bring up the car example earlier, give something close to that. If you give me a sandbox with a ton of toys that were handcrafted and put in the sandbox for me to play with, versus giving me a shovel and tossing me in an empty sandbox and saying, hey, this is all here for you to build and do stuff on, it's not really the same. Now, what am I blabbing on about? Well, Starfield is an empty game. If you played Bethesda games in the past, if you go back and play something like Morrowind, every corner you turn, everywhere you went, there were secrets and things that were placed there by hand. There were things like massive storylines that you could get into just going around any corner. That game didn't hold your hands. Fast traveling was very limited. There were a lot of different systems in there that, some of which I didn't like. I didn't like, the die roll mechanic of combat. For those that don't know, back when Morrowind first came out, even though it was a three-dimensional game, it still went off the classic like D&D dice roll mechanics when you are trying to hit an enemy. That means that if you are up close to an enemy and try to hit them with a sword, just because you're swinging at them and it visibly looks like it should connect with them, does not mean it would actually connect with them until you got higher and higher stats. It was very frustrating to play. Obviously, as you leveled up that stat, it became easier and easier, but it was very frustrating to play things like a marksman with a bow and, shoot a bunch of arrows and none of them were connecting. Like one every 10 or 15 connect, it really kind of messed with the OCD. Same with the melee combat and the spells. But we did eventually move away from that. We came to Oblivion. Everything was hitting. You didn't have to worry about the die roll mechanic. Then we went on to Skyrim. Also, we had the Fallout games, Fallout 3, Fallout 4. Again, those are the ones I got into. I never played the top-down games. I'm talking strictly from the 3D games when I started playing. Those games were awesome. Again, they had a lot of content to it, and none of the crap was randomly generated. We didn't get a bunch of empty cities with nothing in it, and we're told, hey, this is going to be for modders later on. Just because the city's empty doesn't mean it's boring. Well, now it looks like Bethesda's making games that are specifically for modders, and modders don't want to touch it. Now, I don't know if the original Bethesda games were made with modding in mind. I know that there were mods for them. There were a lot of them, in fact. Those are some of the first games I actually got into modding. I didn't do Fallout 3, but I did start modding Morrowind, then got into Oblivion. And keep in mind, back in the day, I had an Xbox 360, or Xbox, so I didn't, whatever came out with Oblivion, I think it might have been 360. I'm getting old. So that was where I was playing Oblivion on. I got a PC later on, and that's when I really got started into modding games, and I started with Morrowind. So from then on, I was used to modding games, but I don't really know the history as far as was it always meant to be modded by Bethesda. Now, of course, you have the creation kits, creation kit comes out for all these games. So, I mean, obviously, modding is a huge part of Bethesda games, but the games were not made, or at least the earlier games were not made with modders in mind as far as they are going to fill in our game for us. It is very apparent, or at the very least, since they're saying we don't, as Sterl was saying, we don't know what goes behind everything, it is very apparent, no matter how you want it to sound, that this game was made for modders to fill in the gaps. Now, that might not have been the intent, but guess what? That's what it looks like. And, yeah, if we're disconnected from game development, I think these game developers are disconnected from the customers and the perception of their games. You can't give us a game with 1,000 empty planets and say, and this is coming from a company, again, that has handcrafted all their stories before and handcrafted all their games. Now they're giving us a bunch of planets that are randomly generated and saying, hey, this is for modders. Everything else feels kind of empty, and yeah, and not have that look bad. You can't. I'm going to read another article here, at least part of it. I'm going to refresh this because there's some crap advert over here that's screwing it up. Now, for those that don't know, there are a team of modders that are working on a mod called Skyrim Together. It is essentially a multiplayer mod for Skyrim. Sounds awesome, right? Well, check this one out. Who is this one from? I can't even tell who this is. Gaming Bible? Looks like it's from the Gaming Bible. And that is, God, I hate these ads. I really do. I really fucking do. This one is written by Dan Lipscomby, and it is Starfield multiplayer modders give... God, I really fucking hate this. It's Starfield multiplayer modders give up because the game is trash. Here we go. This game is fucking trash. It's a bold statement, but it's one that seemingly keeps arising. In this case, it comes from the modding team responsible for one of the most popular mods for Skyrim, Skyrim Together. Skyrim Together gave players the chance to switch the game from single player to co-op, and the team was hoping to bring the same ability to Starfield. I think a lot of people were hoping to do a lot of things with Starfield, and they're unable to do so because Bethesda seriously dropped the ball on this. And I think Bethesda also has to kind of keep something in mind, too. Bethesda's always had its haters, okay? Every game does. There are franchises that just, no matter what, no matter how good they are, there are going to be people that hate it because they don't like that kind of game. They don't like the company. They don't like a specific person on it. They don't like something in game. You got to ignore most of those. But when you have longtime fans saying this game is trash, then we've got a problem. I don't think Bethesda can really ignore this or can't afford to ignore it too much longer. I think they might do it anyway, because I think for a long time now, Bethesda has been really kind of riding the coattails of their former success. Sorry, I got something in my eye, and I'm live now, so I can't get up and get it. They've been riding the coattails of all their former successes, but they've been falling short of not their goals, but their promises for a long time. Let's get back to the article here. The problem is, as the above statement says, Starfield is struggling. What made Skyrim such a popular game is the handcrafted attention to detail that Bethesda was famous for. Right there, handcrafted. They paved the way with the fantastic RPG, but also with their post-apocalyptic RPG Fallout. Sadly, with Starfield, that feeling of deep exploration and branching depths from questing felt lacking. With so much of the exploration done by fast traveling, there's no sense of scope. What worked in Skyrim, being able to wander off the beaten path and get lost in caves or dungeons, was removed in Starfield. And here's the sad part is, if it wasn't for the thousand-something planets that were empty, if they just had, say, 10 handcrafted planets, this would work. You could do this. You could have all those handcrafted moments. I think it was Pete Hines, and again, I'm terrible with names, but I want to say, when we were waiting for Fallout 76 to come out, I think it was Pete Hines that said something along the lines of, he would play test the game, and he would basically start a character or start a session. He would start from the vault or start from wherever. He would choose a direction, and he would walk that direction and see if there's anything there. If there was, he would check it out. If there wasn't, he'd say, hey, let's get something over here. I think I'm paraphrasing. This is not the exact quote, but that's what he did. You can't do that with Starfield, and it's painfully obvious that they did not do this with Starfield. I remember going through Morrowind, or even, again, obviously the Elder Scrolls games, any of them, or any of the Fallout games, but I remember going through Morrowind specifically, and just going through some of those, some of these cities just felt like amazing, like I could find anything around any corner. Now keep in mind that the graphics obviously don't hold up to date. They are very dated if you go back and look at them now. At the time, they were awesome. Now, I'm used to looking at stuff like Cyberpunk 2077. Looking around that kind of city, that's insane. Again, another good comeback story. But, matter of fact, let's go ahead and take Cyberpunk 2077, for example. You walk around that city and you feel like you can find anything anywhere. Now, obviously, a lot of stuff you find on the ground is kind of junk, or you sell it, or you just find a shit ton of weapons, some are redundant, but no matter where you turn, you're sure to find something. And again, most of it was handcrafted in there. Now, I know it went through a lot of changes with the Phantom Liberty DLC, but you feel like everything was handcrafted that was placed in there, and you kind of wonder, wow, who actually went through and put all this stuff here? It's crazy. Again, playing through Morrowind, playing through Oblivion, especially, playing through Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is another one that was kind of controversial and really, I think, kind of started on the... Actually, I take it back. I think Skyrim also did too, because people criticized it a bit as far as the RPG elements, but it wasn't... I don't think it was that bad. I think Fallout 4 is where it really started to go downhill as far as people complaining about the RPG elements of it. Now, me, personally, I didn't mind it so much. I kind of liked the more modern take on it. I liked the gunplay a bit... Well, I like the improved gunplay. That's not really saying too much, because it was coming off of Fallout 3, but the gunplay was improved. But there were still a lot of RPG elements that were removed. But I still like the game itself. Fallout 76, I think they got cocky and tried to cash grab. And again, this is a game that I love. I can't lie right now. Keep in mind, this is on Steam right now. Let me show you my Steam library. What's my Fallout 76 at right now? Fallout 76 is at only 23 hours on here, so I forgot. I did most of my playtime on the Bethesda launcher, so I haven't... About the time they switched over to Steam, I'd already kind of stopped playing, so I'll hop in every once in a while and play, but I think I had it easily maybe 500 hours on it before I stopped playing, really. Again, after the transfer to Steam, I had already kind of stopped playing at that point, but Fallout 76, I think, was when Bethesda really got lazy as far as what they were putting in their game and promising. And I say lazy, not saying that the devs are lazy, and I want to make this very clear from the get-go, too. I'm not saying that the devs don't have a hard job. I'm not saying that they're lazy by any chance. I'm not saying that game development is not a hard job to do, but I am saying that we have gotten a glimpse behind the curtain now, and we see a bit more of how management has handled things, and we see the end product of some of these decisions. And to be honest, it's not hard to work backwards from the end product, and you can work backwards to see what decisions were made to get here. It's not that difficult. Destiny 2 is one I'm going to make a video on, probably not tomorrow, probably soon, but Destiny 2, you can very easily see how all those decisions kind of ended up where we are right now. We're getting articles about how management shut down requests from the player base for improvements, how the devs brought these things to management, and management shut it down. We can see how the Eververse has been pushed more and more and more, and we also see how, hey, when the community actually really speaks up and really gets together on something, how they actually respond. They put together a freaking strike team for the PvP playlist. For a while, it was just PvP players. And keep in mind, I'm not a PvP person. I hate PvP, but I'm just that kind of person. I don't like PvP for most games. That's just me. But the PvP community got together, and they were so loud that they had to put together a damn strike team to fix the PvP and to give us more stuff. Now, But the reason Bethesda stuff, we're going to go over that in a later video because there's a lot I'm going to go over for Bethesda, specifically for Destiny and Destiny 2, but that's just an example. We're getting peeks behind the curtain. It's also weird that some of these game devs that have these bad takes, they basically talk shit about how we don't know what we're talking about, and then some of the people that lead those companies tell us that, yeah, it's a shit show, or yeah, this is exactly what you think it is. Yeah, I don't know how to fucking code a damn rifle in the game. I don't know how to make a damn spaceship fly in a damn game. I don't know the coding behind it, but I have worked in companies before, and I can very easily see how the management decisions and how some of the lazy decisions kind of popped up in here. And there's no way you're going to convince anyone that Starfield was anything other than a game that was supposed to be a modder's playground. The problem is that's not what Bethesda games are supposed to be, or at least that's not what we buy them. We buy them for their RPG experience, and then we buy them later on. Starfield, again, feels empty, and it probably wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for those empty planets. I think the inclusion of those really killed the game. In fact, I would say if you were to take out all the empty planets and only keep the locations and planets that actually have story stuff or mission stuff tied to them, the complaints would not be nearly as bad. In fact, I think had they not added in those planets in development, I know they would have had more time to add on to the rest of the game as well. And I know that for a fact because if you don't program in the other shit, you literally have more time to program in it. Like, it's basic math and time management. Now, again, I don't know whose decision it was to add in those planets. I don't know whose decision it was to stop with adding in handcrafted stuff, but there's also a few other things that just don't work with Starfield. Again, I said it when the game first came out, and I'm going to say it to the day I die. Having a new game plus where you lose everything is the dumbest fucking decision you can make in a game where it's all about collecting things. I don't think Bethesda really understands their audience, or at least they forgot their audience, because it's all about... If you go to my character in Fallout 76 right now, I probably got about 100 weapons that I have never fired, but I got because they were awesome and because I did some crazy stuff. People like to collect things. In Fallout 76, I collect power armor. In Fallout 4, I always hate starting a Fallout 4 playthrough because one of the first things I have to do is make a big base so that I can have my power armor stands to show off the power armor I've collected. You can collect things in Starfield, but there's no way to show them off. There's no real good things to collect, and you lose them when you do the New Game Plus. Now, as far as the no good things to collect, yes, there are some things that are iconic in the game, but very few. In fact, off the top of my head, the only iconic thing I can think of is a set of armor, and that's the Mantis armor you can get at the beginning of the game. And it is some of the ugliest fucking armor I've ever seen in my life. It looks like some weird doctor armor, like somebody from the movie The Centipede would be wearing before they did something terrible to your butt or your mouth. Unfortunately, that's the only iconic thing I can think of. And even that you would lose. You can get it back, obviously, when you do the New Game Plus, but again, what's the point? I can't think of any iconic weapon. I mean, I can think of different weapon types, but I can't think of any iconic weapons that do real unique things, which is, again, something else we're missing from Starfield. You go back and you play an Elder Scrolls game, or you play a Fallout game, they have iconic stuff you can actually get. For example, I can't even think of the name of it, but I can remember the quest line to get the items. For example, that super radioactive dagger you get in Fallout 4, where you actually go through and you have the weird flashbacks of the cult, and it's real Lovecraftian, but you got to dive down, you get that crazy-ass looking dagger. I remember that one. I remember all the crazy-ass items you get in Skyrim, like all the Daedric Princes have all their items, like Azure Star and all that stuff. Like, there's a ton, like the Wabbajack, like there's tons and tons of legendary items that are very unique, that do very unique things, and Starfield is lacking in that. That is something that is in both the Fallout and the Elder Scroll franchise, and that is missing in Starfield. And again, I mean, I've said it on several videos, but you're just not going to get around the fact that the New Game Plus kills any engagement you would need for any of the long-term things like base building and shipbuilding. And somebody said something on my last video, too. They basically said there's no point in making a base. Now, I disagree with that, but only because I use my base for experience grinding. I think I talked about it in my last video, too. They did item management very, very poorly in the game. Especially between ships, between the player, and between your bases. sorting it is a nightmare. The thing I mentioned, each base should just have its own internal inventory like they do with the settlements in Fallout 4, but instead you have to put everything in boxes, and the sorting system is terrible. You can't really sort things out very easily, and transporting things is a nightmare too. Yeah, you can set up a whole logistic thing of ships mining up shit and flying and dropping them off, and it's way more time than it's worth, and again, if you're going to end up losing it anyway, what's the point? But again, there's no real point in setting up those bases because any benefit you would get out of them, you would again lose, except for experience. That's literally the only thing I do with the base is use it for experience grinding, because you can get a lot of experience making a lot of certain medications in a certain spot. So, and you can sell them quickly for a lot of cash. But as of right now, Bethesda's got a real issue with one, how they're responding to some of the negative feedback, and they really need to take a page out of Sean Murray's book or some of these other devs. And one, apologize, because I'm sorry, there's no way. I'm not going to say the game is broken because it's not, but responding the way they have is not, you can't really get mad at people's criticism, especially when it's, valid. You can't get mad when people say the game is vast and boring, and then come back and say, well, there's 1,000 planets that are empty, but that's not boring. Well, that's the definition of boring. You can't get mad that people don't want to invest time in the game when there's nothing tying them to do it. I mean, again, we've got mod developers that are basically saying the game is trash, you're not going to touch it. Let's read some more of this article here. So the modding team has decided, and again, this is the one where the guys from Starfield, or Starfield together, from Skyrim together have basically said the game is trash, we're not going to mod it. So the modding team has decided not to bother with the game, explaining more on their Discord server. The team said, I didn't realize this until after I actually started playing the damn game a week after launch. The game is boring, bland, and the main draw of Bethesda games, exploration in a lively and handcrafted world was completely gone. This is the same thing everybody's saying. I've mentioned that before, the handcrafted portion of a lively world. The damning statement comes after weeks of the game being kicked repeatedly. The game has lost so many players that it now has fewer active players than Skyrim. Think about that. Skyrim's been out for like 100 years, and Starfield has less players than Skyrim does. Fans believe the game is a missed opportunity, I believe so, and the game was snubbed at the Game Awards. It's safe to I believe somebody nominated Starfield for the Game Awards for something. I would have been so... I don't know if they won anything, but I remember, I think Starfield and I think Destiny 2 got nominated for some shit. I think Lightfall got nominated for like best dialogue or some shit. I was like, are you fucking kidding? That's how you can tell these aren't from fans and that this shit is fucking rigged. Said to say things aren't going well, and while Bethesda are continually working on the game, it's hard to know if modders will stick around. A final word from the mod team seemed to sum up many feelings. I won't be continuing development on Starfield together. I'm not going to put my heart and soul into a mod for a game as mediocre as this. Ooh. And that's what it is. It's a mediocre game. Again, it's not bad by any means, but this is not a game I want to develop or spend thousands upon thousands of hours in. I mean, again, right now, looking up new mods for me is the most fun part of the game. And don't get me wrong, there are some fun mods out there. I really do enjoy looking up the mods. I was shocked to see, I think the last mod video I did, how somebody came up with doing quests by building ships. One thing I always like going and checking out some of these mods is that, and not just Starfield, for any Bethesda game or any game I mod, looking at all the creativity, looking at all these mods that have come out, a lot of these things are things I would have never thought of. I would have never thought, hey, put in a quest line or put in a quest system where you build ships for people. I would have never thought about doing that. Bounty hunting was one. I thought about that a little bit, but it was only very briefly. I didn't think it'd be implemented in the game, but it was awesome. But I only thought about that because of the bounty mods that were in the Fallout games. Those bounty mods were awesome. They were amazing. I loved it. I never would have thought about something like that. Mods, things like player homes, I never would have thought of. There's a lot of creative things that are on the Nexus and a lot of creative mods for these Bethesda games that I just never would have thought or awesome or would have thought of it or awesome. And now to go back and play those games, I can't play them without them. There are certain weapon mods that I can't play the games without. For Skyrim, there are certain magic mods I can't play the game without. It's insane. But yeah, I mean, when that's the most fun part of the game, though, that's the problem. Like, I enjoy looking up the mods and checking them out, but I'm not motivated to go back and play the game too much with the mods. Like, I'll try them out, and then I'm like, okay, that's cool. Whenever I come back to play the full game, I keep this one in. And right now, that kind of begs the question, when are people going to come back and actually play the game again? And that brings me up to the next topic here. We're still waiting for the DLC to come out for this game. Now, I don't know what the DLC for this would possibly look like, but the best I could see is that they're going to add a storyline for the Varum, for that faction we never got a quest line for. That's all I can think of. That Great Serpent might play a part in it. We may get to find it and discover the truth behind it. If not, and if that's never part of our DLC, then that's definitely going to be a missed opportunity. But yeah, I think Bethesda. You can't dismiss all the criticism. You just can't. It's not as though we've got people that are just Bethesda haters coming in and say that. They don't have to say anything. These are fans that are criticizing the game. Again, we got some of the biggest modders out here that are saying they don't want to develop for the game because the game is boring. The game does not have that Bethesda feel for it. I'd rather go back and keep doing stuff like Skyrim, which there's still mods coming out for it. The fact of the matter is that the only reason that modders stick around for games is because they like the game. And Bethesda very clearly, instead of handcrafting their game, they're like, well, modders are going to come by and mod this anyway, so we'll just make a game for modders. Now, again, I'm sure the developers will say, well, you don't know why this was it, and you don't know why that. Well, I do know what the end product is, and the end product looks like you made a game that should be a playground for modders, but unfortunately, you kind of missed the first step, and that is modders don't want to mod a game that's boring to play. You have to have that base, and then you have the mod support. I think they're already talking about having the Crash Kit. I think they pulled out the roadmap a bit ago. I don't give a fuck about it right now. I'll look it up again later. That might be a video for next week, but as of right now, until the DLC comes out, I'm going to keep doing the mod videos unless there's some more drama that comes out during the week, because some of this is kind of amazing to watch. Some of these takes are just so bad. And what's funny is I'm starting to get flashbacks when Fallout 76 came out, because again, there was controversy after controversy after controversy from Fallout 76, and now here we got Starfield. And it's the two newer type games that they're getting it from. They're getting it from the multiplayer Fallout game, which was a prequel, which, again, story-wise, I hate because we know what happens, but that's just my thing. And then we got the new IP, Starfield, that is also, getting a ton of hate. And Starfield is doing worse than Fallout 76 is as far as ratings and shit. And it's fucking crazy. Now, I remember when Fallout 76 was coming out, I was in the beta, and I remember that all the different problems from the beta, that there was no way they were going to get fixed in time. I remember how they had to recall the power armor helmets because they had some toxic material in there or some crap. I remember the whole canvas bag issue. I remember the jacket issue. I remember all these different issues and controversies that were coming out for the game. I remember how bad it was. I remember all the hackers. I remember watching hackers that were just walking up to players and taking their entire inventories. These are people with hundreds of hours in game, and they're having their entire inventory just wiped because of hacks, because people could just hack in on it. There's still hacked guns in the game to this day, if I'm not mistaken. And it's been years. And that tells you something. Yeah, that's crazy. So, that's what's going on with Starfield right now. And again, because I'm putting this out does not mean I've changed. I'm still going to do mod videos. But when I see things like this, I'm just like, when I see really bad stuff and I think Bethesda having these really bad takes, it makes me not want to make the videos that I enjoy making, because I feel like a jackass for doing it, honestly. I can't see a developer going through and having such a monumentally bad take, basically saying that we don't know what the fuck we're talking about when we're criticizing the game, when, I'll be honest, it sounds like he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Yeah, you know how to develop a game, but you clearly don't know what your fans want. You don't know what your game looks like. You don't know the perception everybody has of you. And you clearly forget that a lot of your fans are developers. In fact, I think Bethesda forgets that they hired modders to help make their game. Some of the people that worked on Bethesda game, I think, for Starfield, were modders at one point. And I think they also forget the fact that modders have actually made full multi-hour quests for their games. I'm pretty sure if I were to get the top few teams of modders, they could probably make a better Starfield game than Bethesda has at this point, with stuff that the actual players want. Again, if you want to talk about coding and stuff like that, yeah, I couldn't tell you anything about it, but I can almost guarantee you that the fans would make a better quest line and a better game for Starfield in the desert right now. And that's pretty sad. And I don't think it's got actually to do with the devs. I think it's probably got more to do with management, because I'm pretty sure Starfield more likely ended up as something different at one point and then got turned into what it is right now. In fact, I'm almost willing to bet we're going to get our like Jason Schreier or something in like a year talking about how Starfield was basically developed in like 2 months, and how it was like 3 or 4 different games before, and at the last minute it got changed into this, and only had so many months to do it, and that's what happened to Starfield. I'm betting that's probably what happened. I'm betting. And that's not me saying that I know how game development goes. That's me saying I know how companies go, and I know what the gaming industry has been doing for some years now, and what Bethesda's been doing, because we keep finding out about this stuff. So I bet we get an article about that here at some point, because this is turning into one of those games that's just going to be, I mean, it's just destroying their reputation. And again, I guess it's not necessarily the game itself, but how they're responding to it, because they could very easily not say anything, or just come out and say, okay, we're going to fix this shit, or we're going to do better, and then do that. They could very easily just add in more features to the game, or come out with the DLC early, or do something to try to help public perception of the game and the player base. But instead, they just keep talking shit, and they've got what, I mean, they're either AI generated responses on Steam, or they're outsourcing their responses to like India or a call center or something. Or they literally just have to stick to posting certain scripts and they see certain keywords on there. But these responses are just fucking retarded. But that's going to do it for me for today, guys. I am going to make a Destiny 2 video. If not tomorrow night, then maybe Saturday, we'll see. Because I got a bunch of stuff to say about Destiny 2 here coming up. A lot of it's been mulling on my mind. But again, filming the videos and editing them is a bit of a bitch, so I'm just going to start doing this stuff live instead. So hopefully that'll help me build the channel as well, and give me a lot more time to get other shit done. So that's going to do it for me for today, guys. Thank you for coming by. Please subscribe to the channel if you like what it is we're doing. Let me know down below what you guys think about Starfield right now, what you guys are thinking about Bethesda in general. Let me know if you've got any ideas for videos you want me to cover, or any news you want me to cover, gaming-wise below. Thank you all for coming by, and I will see you later.